Hey everybody, I'm Scott Bunn, founder of the Seneca Treehouse Project, where our mission is to empower humanity with sustainable, holistic solutions. I'm here to tell you that a solution to all of the world's problems can be solved in a garden. Population growth, climate change, food scarcity, economic issues, energy crisis, disease, terrorism, soil erosion, and ignorance. If you look at our population growth, after the Industrial Revolution, it started to skyrocket due to the use of fossil fuels and technology advancement. We're right here at peak oil, and we have basically four possible scenarios. We keep growing at the same rate, which is probably not going to end well. We can level off eventually, maybe around 10, 11 billion. Some people say as many as 13 billion. It's hard to tell, really. We can go pretty much back down in the same rate we've come up due to war and disease, but that's no fun. So we're going to try to go with this green scenario right here, where we level out and eventually drop down to a sustainable level. The way to this sustainable population and sustainable planet is through a holistic design approach called permaculture. It's a natural pattern and principle understanding. We look at things that we find in nature, which we've been doing, and we apply those to our design and to our culture. So we create a permanent improvement to culture. One of those patterns is a dendritic pattern, and that can be found in trees, it can be found in the lungs, the blood vessels, cellular level, and one of my favorite is the mycelial level, which is top left here, this group of mycelium. And it's a network, and it connects to the roots of plants and creates a symbiotic relationship, providing food for the plants as the plants provide food for the mycelium. It also creates an information pathway where the plants can communicate to each other. Very similar to our internet. Up on the top right here, you'll see a map of what the internet would look like. We can apply this dendritic pattern to education through exponential educational programs. At Treehouse Tools and Training, our goal is to train 50 people every year, and those 50 people would ideally go out and positively impact 50 more people with solutions for sustainability. If that pattern occurs every year, within 6 years we can reach 300 million people. One of the largest issues, most pressing issues, and contributor to all of the other problems that we have is our loss of soil. Without soil, we cannot grow plants. Without plants, we cannot survive. This is occurring because we keep clearing forests so that we can put in farmland so that we can grow food, and eventually that farmland is taken over and turns into desert. The whole story of this is talked about in Genesis, the Garden of Eden, where all of the plants were pleasant to the sight and good for food. It talks about water running from the garden. And then there's a story of Cain and Abel, where Cain was a tiller of the land and Abel was the herdsman. So basically Abel was the permaculture guy in the Bible, and Cain was the massive farm that cut down the forest and had to work, and he didn't produce a very good quality food, which is why he got jealous of Abel's quality food and he killed Abel. That's the gist of the story. It also talks about thorns and thistles in the Bible, and that just so happens to be one of the first layers of succession. Succession is a natural process that land undergoes to reestablish a forest. When a forest is cut or burned, first there comes back in the first couple of years with annual grasses, and then 3 to 5 years there are annual and perennials. After that there are fast-growing trees like pines, and then you have more hardwoods, and eventually after 150 years you have a hardwood forest. We can mimic that pattern of succession and speed it up rapidly. We do it with the use of livestock and implementing some of those key species right away. This is Jeff Lawton and his 10-year-old food forest that he created with chicken tractoring. It's the use of livestock to improve soil quality, and then installing key species and mulching and letting it develop. Climate, that's a big issue. There's a lot of people say we can't do anything about it, but we need to be aware of our impact on climate. And part of that awareness is realizing the relationship between trees and rain. Trees absorb rainfall, and the root systems and within the tree slowly evaporates. It holds moisture and it feeds animals, creating more nutrients and more soil life and more food. If we remove the tree, we remove that whole cycle, and we end up with flash floods and droughts. One other way to combat climate change is creating food diversity. Instead of relying on one species or two species of plants and animals, we have large biodiversity, where if one species does not do well, it's okay because all the other species are there to pick up the slack. Hippocrates says, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." This addresses food scarcity, hunger, and malnutrition, which leads to disease. So if we eat well and we're healthy, we have plenty of good quality, high nutrient food, then we can drastically reduce disease in the world. Energy production, we're already modeling it. We're doing it with solar panels. Everybody needs to get solar panels, get wind, and we have tidal. We have rivers. We're already using a lot of that. Solar is key. There's a lot of people say also that, oh, windmills are going to slow down the wind. It's not going to happen. Put up windmills where you have good wind. Put up solar panels where you have good solar. It's also about redesigning and reducing. If you just build a house with no thought, then you have a lot of heating and cooling costs and require a lot more solar panels or whatever your source may be. If you design the house to utilize passive solar and use the earth for cooling, then you drastically reduce the amount of energy needed to sustain your house. Terrorism, well, everything that we've talked about results or can result in terrorism. If you have a lack of food and a lack of resources, it results in farmers going to the cities to get jobs and not being able to get jobs, so they get recruited into terrorist organizations. They're angry because they don't have anything, they don't have any other options. A lot of it is radical beliefs, but one thing we know for sure, you cannot fight fire with fire. The only thing that will be left if you fight fire with fire is nothing. You'll burn everything, everything will be gone, and that's the only way you're going to put the fire out. But if you pour water on that fire, then the water carries the ash into the soil. All is eventually forgotten. That soil turns into fertility and grows life. Put down the gun and pick up the shovel. Economy, there are endless possibilities to create successful businesses working towards sustainability. If the farmers downsize and focus on biodiverse farms, and instead of having 1,000 acres, one person with 1,000 acres have 10 people with 100 acres. Everybody can have plenty of work and plenty of biodiversity. Consultants, natural builders, there are all kinds of products like rainwater collection devices and reforestation products and seeds. The list really goes on there. There's so many possibilities. This is Mark Shepard's farm, and it's called New Forest Farm in Wisconsin. And he's a very profitable farmer and consultant. He's one of the originators of Organic Valley Milk Company. And if you notice, he has mimicked the natural patterns of lobed, following the contours. So planted all of his trees, and he runs all of his livestock on contour, and that hangs on to all the water and the nutrients. So what can we do? We need to implement the built community with nature. Vertical gardens, trees growing on buildings. We can actually take a building and grow more biodiversity on that vertical building than we could on the square footage in which the building is built. All of this will reduce flash flooding and help stabilize climate and clean carbon out of the atmosphere. We should turn our yards into gardens. If you don't go out and play in your yard and all you're doing is mowing it and watering it and fertilizing it and buying gasoline to take care of it, take that money and that time, invest it in perennial crop gardens and herb gardens, food security, and all of that will reduce the amount of deforestation that needs to occur in order to provide your food elsewhere. Integrate with your community. Learn about people that live around you. Learn what they do, what their interests are, what they want to learn, and get together with them on a regular basis. Most importantly, empower yourself and those around you. Thank you.